Hey guys, BigSquareRoadToRoad.com. Everybody's asking me, why don't I dig into silver more? So I did. I haven't in a long time because I know it's rigged via computers, but there's always something to find in silver that kind of links up to the conspiracy. What I want to talk about right now is something really interesting. Donald Trump, just as of October 3rd, has announced intent to nominate personnel to key administrative points. And there's a couple of positions open, obviously, but here's the big one right there. David J. Ryder of New Jersey to be Director of the United States Mint. The United States Mint plays a key role in the manipulation of gold and silver. They're one of the largest silver hedgers. Giving HSBC was running their hedge book for a while. It gives the criminal riggers legitimate reasons to be so short silver at times. But yeah, the U.S. Mint is absolutely in on it. So let's talk about this guy, David J. Ryder. He's actually been the director of the Mint before in the early 90s with Bush 1, which should scare you right there. But I'm not so sure that he was in on it, and I'll show you why. Let's a little bit about this guy. Mr. Ryder served as manager and managing director of currency for Honeywell Authentication Technologies. Previously, Mr. Ryder served as CEO of Secure Products Corporation, which was acquired by Honeywell in 2007. 1990. Now, I mean, okay, that's what he's done in the past. He's been in the, making his money in the public sector. But listen to this. In 1991, Mr. Ryder was nominated by President George W. Bush and confirmed by the U.S. Senate to serve as director of the U.S. Mint. His prior government service also included Deputy Treasurer of the United States, Assistant to the Vice President, Deputy Chief of Staff of Vice President Daniel Quayle. Mr. Ryder was born in Billings, Montana, raised in Boise, Idaho, a big silver area, and a graduate of Boise State University. Mr. Ryder is married with 2 children. All right, let's look at a little more about Mr. Ryder right here. Worked for the U.S. Department of Commerce as Deputy Commissioner. U.S. Pavilion in 1994 Louisiana World Exposition, 93 to 80, or that was 84. This guy's an old guy. He's nearing retirement, so why are they sticking him as the head of the Mint? From 85 to 96, he worked for the Vice President of the United States. So all throughout the 80s, and remember, this is a very important time. It was the introduction of Reagan's, I'm going to spend as much money as possible to destroy the U.S. dollar. And then the strong dollar policy came, all this stuff behind the scenes. This guy was involved in it. He was director of operations for the 1988 Republican National Convention. So he's in with the Bushes, with the bad guys. So why is Trump pulling him out of the weeds to head the Mint? And note, there has been no head of the Mint since January. And let's look at what has happened to the Silver Bullion program, the Silver Eagle program, since January. We were all the way up through the 2000s, up to last year. Silver Eagles were booming, approaching 50 million ounces. Even January of this year, as you can see, 5 million ounces was a huge month. And then the director of the Mint was fired or quit. And there has not been a director of the Mint since. And the volumes have gone to practically nothing, if you look at that. Silver Eagle sales are practically nothing. Now, Ted Butler seems to think that J.P. Morgan has been the big buyer for the last 10 years since they took over the short from Bear Stearns. I happen to agree with him. I think J.P. Morgan has stopped buying from the U.S. Mint because of a lack of metal, truthfully. So really interesting stuff. But let's look a little more at this guy Ryder and what the Mint has done as far as Silver Eagle sales. Now, if you recall some of my earlier work, the Silver Eagle program started in 1986 by Barney Frank and another senator. The idea was to help destroy the monetary system. At some point, they classified Silver Eagles differently from Gold Eagles. Silver Eagles, they were required to buy the silver from anywhere in the world and required to make Silver Eagles on demand. Tim Geithner changed that a few years back. I think I was the first one to jump up and down, scream, and say that they were doing something that was illegal by not selling U.S. Silver Eagles to meet demand, and then they changed the law the next year. So I'll pat myself on the back for that one. But let's look at the Silver Eagle program, which is the first column right here. 86, 30 million ounces, 11 million. Now, the Silver Eagle is the most popular silver coin in the world, so that's why it's important and it has the highest volumes. In 1987, they doubled it, real exciting, and then Bush comes in, bam, 5 million, 5 million, 5 million, 1990, 5 million. Something went wrong, and then 91, it starts up again, and then 92, it gets slammed back down to 5 million. This is interesting because in 1992, this guy Ryder came in right here, and he was the mint director all through 93. You can see there's a jump, pretty decent jump in 93, and then he leaves at the end of 93, and then you have some really interesting things going on. So if you guys remember what happened to silver in the early 90s, that's when the silver calutrons were shut down at the Manhattan Project. I've written many articles about it. Right here, go to Road to Ruta website, The Great Silver Mystery Revealed. And it goes through what happened. Those are the calutrons where they borrowed. At the time, I thought it was 500 million ounces of silver. It turns out to be a lot more than that, over 2 billion ounces of silver. From the U.S., they borrowed it from the U.S. Treasury, and then they melted it down to create these magnets. And I go through all that, and one of the really interesting things that really led to me to think that there was something going on here with the silver was the exports, the U.S. mint exports in this time frame right here. From 93, from 94, 95, 96, 97. You can see the silver, that's when Ryder left the Treasury, and then 94, 95, 96, 97, absolutely slammed. Nothing was happening with the Silver Eagle program. And then after 98, 99, it started up again. And here's where GATA came in and started spreading the news. I joined GATA in 2000, and we were really pumping the news of the silver manipulation. And in 2006 is when, in 2007 is when J.P. Morgan bailed out Bear Stearns, and they started, 2007, they started buying Silver Eagles. You can see in 2007, it jumped from 9 million ounces to 20 to 30 to 34 to 40. This is all J.P. Morgan loading up the coffers with physical silver and at the same time shorting on the comics. Now, how did I know that in 93 and 94 and 95 and 96 was the time that the calutrons were shut down and melted? I go through it in this article. But the key that really got me thinking about it was this spreadsheet. This is from the U.S. Geological Survey. It goes through all the imports and exports of silver in the United States. And as you can see, this is the export column. This is silver export, or silver exported by the United States. It's pretty steady as mine production increased. It would go up a little. Here's a jump in 1980. Interesting time when Reagan took over and they had the silver spike. I remember the Hunt brothers and all that was going on. So you can explain that right there as a, that's when silver went to $50. But you can't explain this right here, what I put in red. Now, what I put in red is the silver exports from the United States from 1995 till 1999 massively jumped. It jumped from, here, let me change this color so you can see it better. It jumped from, the high hundreds to 2,800 tons, 2,900 tons, 2,900 tons, 2,250 tons. Huge amounts of silver. You total that up, it's about 500 million ounces. That's what was taken out of the Manhattan Project at the time. It helped solidify the argument. And here's a really interesting thing. The USGS didn't even report primary and secondary production right here. that's where you would have seen, if they were true to their task, that's where they would have you would have seen a real difference. The secondary production would have been the silver that came out of the Manhattan Project in the it was 500 million ounces of silver at that time, and then more later, which was really interesting. But the USGS wanted to maintain their standing as purveyors of real information, so they just said not applicable. They just decided not to put it in there, but they did put the exports in. You can see that clearly, that the production, primary production, nothing changed. It's not like we found this gigantic silver mine and the U.S. was all of a sudden exporting millions of silver. No one has ever explained this, how these things jumped, what's that, at least, it's about 4 or 5 times the average. And then right after 1999, right back to normal. And then there's another jump here where they actually shut down another facility in the Manhattan Project right in there, and then so on. That is all Manhattan Project silver, going back to the Road to Ruta theory and discoveries, really, of what was going on at the Manhattan Project. So go to theroadtoruta.com, look up The Great Silver Mystery Revealed, and you'll find all kinds of stuff on, those are the calutrons, there's the magnets. That's when they tore them down. They said they tore them down right after the war. That's ridiculous. They just invented the greatest weapon in human history, and they tore it down. Give me a break. Didn't happen. But also, I did a little more research. This is from a Private Road article that Private Road members can get. Just type in "more on the Great Silver Mystery," and you will see even more data in a book that came out about it, written by General Graves, who was in charge of it, saying, hey, yeah, we didn't tell anybody about all the silver that came out. Here's one of the spreadsheets for all these. Look how much silver is there. It's crazy. And this goes way back into the archives. So, yeah, it is absolutely true. That's where all the mysterious physical silver comes from. So, back to the original thoughts about what's going on with the U.S. Mint. JP Morgan has stopped buying silver, has loaded up over 600 million ounces of physical silver. So they stand ready to profit immensely off silver being traded as a physical metal and the destruction of the COMEX and the LBMA, which are criminal organizations as silver derivatives that no mines even use. Very few mines ever hedge their production because they got in so much trouble in the early 2000s. And companies went out of business because they were hedging, so they're not allowed to hedge. There's a couple criminal mines that still do, just to help the cause. But so the introduction of this guy, David J. Ryder, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is a thing because it's clear that the U.S. Mint has been dying. Look, just 2016, they did 30. I mean, I thought this was a big drop from 47 million to 37 million. This year, it'll be well under 30 million, maybe even under. I mean, right now we're at what? We are at 16 million. It might be under 20 million. So that's how much physical silver that was being taken off the market by JP Morgan. Unbelievable amounts. And that's not counting what they took off the COMEX and what they withdrew from the SLV. They are the trustee. Insane stuff going on, my friends, in the silver world, just as always. But that's a little tidbit of something I used to do every day is dive into the silver world. But once you figure out it's rigged with computers and derivatives, you just sit and you wait for the manipulation to end, and we're still waiting. I will have more information tomorrow in the Friday road trip about when I think it will end, and it will end. So that's your update on silver for today. This is Bix Weir, roadtoruta.com. Talk to you later.